And welcome back to WealthWise. It's Jordan Kimmel, your host. We have a really interesting show coming up. We have two guests coming in from areas we don't talk about enough about, frankly. We have Jennifer Castillo, who's going to talk about oil and gas. She represents really one of the biggest oil companies in all of Texas. And then we're going to go down to South and Latin America. We'll talk to George Socca, who actually is very, very deeply involved in the commodity industries, does it with quantitative analysis, which I'm really interested to. But let's just start out for a couple minutes with a backdrop to what's going on this week. And in the Pro Investor newsletter, which we just came out with last week, it's again a host of probably the who's who in the financial business. What I talked about was an expectation that when the calendar changed, they'd begin to sell some of the big winners where people just didn't want to pay taxes, right? And so what you've seen last year, probably a day didn't go by where they didn't mention Nvidia for 20 times in every financial show. We told people to look elsewhere. We told people, yes, it's in our portfolio, but it's a small piece of it. And what you saw happen yesterday was just dramatic. And what people will be dismissing this news out of China with this deep sink, I'll call them. The problem is that there are large language models. There's a new thing most people haven't heard about yet. I've been fortunate enough because I have a son in the industry. You'll be hearing a lot more about small language models, and we don't need to actually incinerate the whole planet to get inferences off of AI. So there was a clear industry issue with energy. We're seeing a lot of energy stocks getting over. In fact, I'll just mention it right now because I'm not always right, but Generac has been in our model for a while. It's now getting hit with a lot of these power companies that supply data centers. If you do your own homework and you know what you're buying, you might want to actually buy pullbacks like this Generac is pulling back. When it was 195, we had a target of 160. It hit there. We nibbled. We're nibbling some more, frankly. It's oversold. This is what a combination of fundamental and technical analysis is all about. That's what Magnet is all about. And the FACS model, which we're probably more proud of, has gotten off to just an incredible start. Um, yes, it has technology, but it's not overweighted. And clearly, it's value with values. Hey, one last thing. If you're around on the 12th, and if you're not, we'll try to record it for you. On the 12th at 4:30 after the close, this is February 12th. We'll be holding a Magnet Facts webinar. We'll probably bring on some of our other contributors to the newsletter. Mark your calendars, February 12th at the close. And in the meantime, stand by. We'll bring Jennifer on in just a minute. And if you haven't heard Drill Baby Drill and figure out where and what area in oil and gas to look at, stand right by. We'll be right back with more WealthWise right after this quick break.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.
And welcome back to WealthWise with me, your host, Jordan Kimmel. And we have a new friend, a new guest. It's Jennifer Castillo. And Jennifer's over. She's a senior VP over at King's Operating Corporation, one of the large oil and gas groups out of Dallas, out of Texas. Welcome so much for joining us, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let me just say, I'm a stock investor. Our audience is, very broad based. When we talk about oil and gas, a lot of people thinking about buying Exxon. But
Right.
there's a whole lot more to the business, from
Absolutely.
finding places to drilling to capping to shipping and so on. Tell us about King Operating Corp and where you guys are in the cycle of oil and gas.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So King Operating has been around for about 28 years. Our CEO and founder, Jay Young, he has been drilling oil for over 50 years, and King's been in operation for almost 30 years. He is a fourth generation oil and gas man and has taken King to a level that most oil and gas companies at our size have not reached. And he's done that through being able to scale his extensive network and his expertise. So many years ago, he made a lot of money in oil and gas and bought up a sports team. So he was one of the former owners of the Texas Rangers. Through that, he's been able to, amplify and scale. So the access of opportunities that King has are pretty extraordinary. We recently hit a milestone about 8 weeks ago. We wrapped up a $213 million fund, incredible raise. And we're currently in the middle of a $100 million raise as we speak. So we are, doing some incredible things in 2025. We are primed for a bullish time in oil and gas, especially as we come into a new administration with President Trump taking office. And we are very grateful that he, has expressed his sentiments as far as, having a stable energy infrastructure and being pro oil and gas and pro our industry.
Right. Well, stable it may be, but the new expression is drill, baby, drill. We know that pretty well. And so let me bring out something else because you're mentioning raises. This is obviously your company probably works with accredited investors,
Correct.
right? And so this is not common stock that you're buying. This is accredited investors. By the way, we're not making a recommendation, but we know without these companies, there is no oil that flows. So share with me again. I'll drop deeper in terms of King Operating Corp. Some people are wildcatters. They look for property. Some people buy the wildcat after they actually start to populate. I've been up on a hill 20 years ago watching, one of the oil and gas operators actually out of Kentucky. Where are you in the cycle? Do you wildcat? What does King do with the client's money when they come into one of their funds?
So when you say wildcat, it's just for me. I'm thinking, going out there and you're poking a hole in the ground, and that's absolutely not what we do. We are very strategic and methodical about what we take on. Our projects are very large scale projects. We take on contiguous acres in areas that are going to be very favorable when it comes to being able to extract oil. For example, one of our projects, we have 60,000 acres in the Bivens Ranch. So when we come out to an area, we're going to go out there, drill wells, but we're also creating offsets. So that's where our model is different than most oil and gas companies, is that we're going to take something and we're going to amplify the value and say, hey, yes, we've drilled these 10 wells here, but let me show you where you can drill 100 other wells and still extract this amount of oil. And this in itself becomes valuable to private equity, to family offices, to institutional capital. And this is something that they are able to add on to their balance sheet. So our approach is completely different. It is a true asset-backed opportunity. Our last fund had 153 wells in the portfolio. So when our partners come in, they have an ownership interest in the entirety of the fund. This is not just, a single well project or, a series of wells. This is an entire portfolio that you are investing alongside with us, and you're also sharing in the divestiture. So our end goal is to sell these projects off. We amplify the value, we prove up these regions, and then we're going to sell these off. And our investors share in that return. And that happens within a 3 to 5 year period where you see, most oil and gas companies, you're not going to see your money for 7, 10, maybe longer.
Right.
And, we're quick in and out. We, multiply your money and we move on to the next project. So this is
Right.
how we stand out among the
Yeah.
marketplace.
So Jennifer, you have to excuse that word wildcatting. It probably has a negative connotation to it. But I know that, look, I studied this years ago, not as well as some engineers do, but I know that the technology's there where they really, it's not a matter of guesswork anymore. There's some great, great technology that's been developed. I'm sure it's got developed since I've seen it last. But let me bring up one other thing. It's a lot of money required to bring this stuff up and to get these, wells going. So one of the things that they've done, and maybe there's even a change with the new administration, these projects and these investments I know are extremely tax beneficial to investors. So, what I do is I buy a stock, I sell a stock, hopefully to gain, I pay a capital gains. What I think your investors do, there's a tremendous need and requirement for this capital. So there's great tax incentives. You want to go over, that piece a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. So Ronald Reagan, when he was in office, he implemented policies for the oil and gas industry. So when our partners come into King Operating, their investment is 100% of the tax write-off, 100%.
And say that again. Make sure people understand what that means.
Absolutely. Our investments are 100% of a tax write-off. The majority of that is going to come from your first year. So last year we issued K1s at around 86%. So investors are going to see anywhere from 86% of a tax write-off that first year. The remaining is going to be captured at exit as it converts to long-term capital gains. But yes, you are absolutely correct, Jordan. We are 100% of a tax write-off. And I will caveat by saying that King Operating is not just a tax play. We are a money-making investment. However, the tax component is a very favorable attribute.
Right. Well, you know what? You don't buy the Texas Rangers by not running profitable operation. I know the operation was super high quality. One of the things that, we talk about is, what's going to change, what dynamic changes. I will share with you that I'll be speaking at the Money Show in a couple weeks at their big conference. One of my two best ideas of the year, frankly, is a oil and gas component. They help companies drill. And so we might actually see the price of oil go lower, which is okay. What you're interested in is more projects and more oil coming out of the ground, even if the price of oil goes down. Am I correct?
Absolutely, you're 100% correct, and I will say, with a shift in administration, that is something that it is to be expected. In a Trump administration, you're also going to see the costs go down, so the refinery costs, the drilling costs, so those margins, whether it's red administration or a blue administration, the margins stay pretty consistent. But as Jay says, he's been doing this for over 50 years. He has seen many presidents come and go, and King Operating has still been around.
Right. Well, I love the amount of experience. I want to tell everybody again, this is for accredited investors only. Why don't you do something for us, Jennifer, now? Why don't you give some contact information if anyone wants to find out more about it? Again, we're not making any recommendations on this show. We're bringing out the top operators in every industry and letting our investors do their homework. So, Jennifer, share your contact information, please.
Perfect. So you can visit me online at kingoperating.com. Jennifer Castillo, and my phone number is area code 469-507-5464. And email is jcastillo@kingoperating.com.
Okay, and what we'll do, Jennifer, is frankly, we'd like to get closer with you. We'd like to we'll look for an oil and gas specialist. There's biotech here, there's real estate, but oil and gas is a specialty. And with 50 years of experience, we would literally love it if we could bring on John, we could bring on, I know his calendar's different,
To bring on the team, absolutely. He would absolutely love to come and participate. Especially oil and gas is really having their moment right now. I don't know if you've seen the show Landman, and he's seen Trump speak on energy recently and what the initiatives are going forward, with the increased demand and, pushing money towards AI and, technology, that the government is coming in and really taking a stance on. We really need to get things tightened up when it comes to energy.
Right.
So we are.
There's very little doubt. There's very little doubt that this is a time for you guys to shine. You've been shining for 50 years. I'm sure you'll shine a little more. And so, Jennifer, one more time, thank you so much for joining us. We are running up to a break. So I want to thank you for your time. We'll have you on soon. It's Jennifer Castillo from King Operating Corporation. And we'll take a real quick break here, Jennifer, and we're going to come back with more WealthWise. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jordan.
And welcome back to WealthWise with me, your host, Jordan Kimmel. And we have a new friend. It's George Socca. George is the managing partner over at Wealthing. And what we're here to talk about is there's a lot more to life than NVIDIA and data centers. George has a lot of expertise in South America, Mid-America, and commodities. And George, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jordan. It's for having me on.
Right. Well, it's really our pleasure. Again, if you watch the financial shows, George, you think there's only one company in the world, there's only one thing to talk about, and that's AI, and that's data centers. There's a lot more to life. In our Pro Investor Insights, have you seen, we have experts from all the walks of the world, whether it's real estate, whether it's biotech. What we don't have, George, is your expertise in the international market and in the commodity market. I watched some of your videos. Let's start the segment by telling us a little bit about Wealthing and maybe even your background, how it all fits into what you're doing right now.
Fantastic. Then again, thank you, Jordan. Well, basically, it's in Wealthing. We provide quant research services, and also we develop quant strategies. And we focused in the U.S. market, but also, as you mentioned, it's in America, from Canada to Argentina, and we have a pretty good understanding, particularly what's going on in Argentina lately. It's since late 2023. And basically Argentina is coming back to the global markets again, and but also it's the America, and as a continent, it's a very vibrant continent. It's the Mexico and Brazil are it's the big economies. It's that are helping the global economy in general, but also it's the other Spanish speaking countries, right? Like, for example, Guatemala, Panama, Costa Rica, and also the Caribbean, right? It's you could find a lot of progress in countries like Dominican Republic, for example, right. And it's United States, but also America in general as a whole. It has a cultural ties with Europe, right? Particularly Spain, right? And Italy, Germany, for example. It's in Argentina, it's 90% of the population. It's European descendants. 50% of Argentinians are Italian descendants, and the rest it's the Spaniards, Germans, and
right.
Polish, and that creates a lot of bridges. Beyond the culture, and goes through directly to the economy, right? It's a lot of import and exports from different countries in America into Europe, right?
Right. So let me tell you what I noticed. And again, I invest a lot, mostly in the United States, but what it is I look at what's going on. And months ago, when your new election took place, there was a sudden jump in and a lot of Argentinian companies, banks, you couldn't help but to notice it. And some of the biggest hedge fund guys in the world actually talked about Argentina as the new place. Like the fundamentals weren't there quite yet, or maybe they're developing, but the market moves ahead of fundamentals. And the Argentine market has been absolutely spectacular for the last year. And now we see a new administration, a pro hemisphere, where, the new American hemisphere. And there's no doubt, George, we're going to get close to you over the next couple of years because I think you're in the right place at the right time. And we don't just talk about tech stocks and Nvidia. There's more to life. So I sent over
Exactly.
a whole bunch of slides. Let's share a couple right now, a couple of major themes. We're not going to look at the slides now, but the major themes that you were showing me was certainly price sensitive. Something's going on in Argentina attracting a lot of money. And I know you're not just an Argentine story, it's all of Latin and South America that you specialize in. So take it away. Tell us what you want to
Yeah.
share.
Well, all right. Well, it's let's focus today. It's I would say in Argentina. It's because I think it's a good story. It's particularly because um, it's a kind of the American story. It's the underdog, right? It's a comeback
Hmm.
story, right? Which is
Hmm.
basically it's you know uh, the story of a second chances, right? And I think Argentina deserves it. It's 200 years ago. Argentina initial name was United States of the South, right?
Whoa,
So
I didn't hear, never
yeah,
heard that. Wow.
yes. So basically, it was created with the same vision of United States. And if you can take a look, it's the many families back in the day. Half of families emigrated to United States, and the other half of the families emigrated to Argentina. So it's we share a lot of things in common, but unfortunately, it's the economy in Argentina was always has been this 16 years of it's the cycles of going back
Right.
and forth, and but I think this time it's the I would say it's the first time in a generation or more, right? It's in modern history, I would say, that the economic infrastructure, if we wanted to call it that way, it's been reshaped. It's supposed to be, right? And we call this briefing. It takes two to tango, right? Because definitely it's a fantastic dance between the fiscal policy and monetary policy, right? It's which is something that is rarely seen in countries around the world, but also in Argentina, right? It's the so what Argentina it's have done in the past 3-4 quarters. It's a massive reshaping of the entire socioeconomic infrastructure, and that generated a rally of the Argentinian stock market for more than 60%. So if we are blown because the Nasdaq it's up 25% and the Standard and Poor's is 25% as well in 2025 in 2024, excuse me. Well, Argentina outpaced 2 times, 3 times. It's what the performance of the U.S. stock market. Definitely, Argentina um, um, stock market and also the economy was completely oversold, right? And it was in a very difficult situation, very dire straits, and with inflation numbers through the roof, also to the point of hyperinflation. It's
Right.
the Argentina ended the last month of 2023 with 25% inflation, amounting to almost more than 200%
Crazy.
annually.
Right. Right. That's
Crazy.
changed now. That's changed. And what I've seen is a dramatic reduction in debt. Uh, this dance you're stalling about between the monetary and the fiscal. This is something that our new president has pointed to. And the fact
Hmm.
is that these gigantic government programs can be curtailed and
Hmm.
and we can get our house back in order. So one thing just I want to mention, is sometimes the forward returns, George, have a lot to do with where you just were. And when you just had a crazy bull market, even when things are good, starting out from that place is a tough place. When you just had a horrendous bear market and things start to turn, man, that's when you can get years of returns. And one of my heroes, Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the
Oh,
most
yes.
successful hedge fund and managers in the world, said if he was looking to invest in only one country, he would invest in Argentina. That was a few months ago. And I kept looking for a fundamental story and couldn't find one. And then prices ran away from me. So
Hmm.
sometimes, like we say, the story develops and then the narrative follows.
Hmm. Yes.
So I will say this to you. I've been to China, I've been to India, I've been all around. I have not been to Argentina yet.
Hmm.
And in the next couple of years, I think great things are going to happen. But what you're going to promise us and our viewers and our listeners, you're going to give us some articles for our Pro Investor Insight newsletter, and
Hmm.
you'll join us more because I know your interests go far beyond just Argentina and some commodities. I've watched your videos. We have a few minutes left. I want you to tease people a little bit with what you want to tell them next time and what they should be really keeping their eyes out, because a lot of people, they watch the daily news in America. George, you watch an hour news, the international news gets around 30 seconds,
Hmm.
and they just don't know enough. So we really were looking for an expert in Latin, South America, and commodities. I think we found you, and
Thank you.
so give us something to look for until we see you next. What should we be watching?
Well, it's continuing with Argentina. A couple of more things. I will looking for, the ending of certain rulings regarding exports. Right? It's definitely that will be increasing the exports more than double,
Okay,
particularly because Argentina it has idle capacity, right, for exporting, and it will
okay,
be from its lithium to copper, all the way down to soybeans, sunflower oil, everything, right? It's there is a lot of potential, and that's the problem when you're looking for the fundamentals. The fundamentals are not maybe in the in today's uh, um, um, companies' capacity, but what all the everything that they are holding back because of all the red taping and regulations. So that
right.
one thing that we'll look to, and the other things on the local market, I will take a look at what's going on with artificial intelligence and all this. It's the uh, tech, narrative. That's because definitely there are a lot of things going on under the hood. It's that goes beyond NVIDIA, and there's a lot of potential there, but it's not happening, and we don't know when it's going to happen. But so far, as a whole, the technology industry is having is sending mixed signals, right?
Okay,
As the particularly and the software development industry is completely undersold. There are not much traction there. Basically, it seems that we're putting the chariot in front of the horses, and I think that might create some pullback. In certain uh, overextended names, right? And maybe in the near future might generate some reversals from those companies or those names that are completely oversold, right? Particularly on the software development as the
right.
department. And also,
Sounds
we
like
are not,
opportunity to me. Sounds like opportunity to me.
yeah, and because so far we have not seen the amount of data transfer that the narrative is telling that is happening, right? It's
Okay,
so we are not seeing growth beyond of 20% in data transfers all around the internet, right? So I think many names are were too early in pricing, right? And
okay.
so many others are it's behind, right? So it's
Right, but let me jump in because we're going to run out of time. Most people in this country, George, most people that I know are going to play the Argentine ETF. And so
Mhm.
they don't have to know every single stock. What we do know is that I believe that our new president and your new president think alike.
Exactly.
And I think that they're going to become friends. And I think that us being friends is just a huge tailwind for all of Mexico. If you were to look at a theme and say for the next 10 to 15 years, you'd see this hemisphere working together more closely. And
Mhm.
and we don't need to import things from Vietnam and China. And I think there's a huge opportunity. When Drunken Miller was talking about Argentina, I didn't really know who to talk to. But George, we'll be friends. WealthWise is going to welcome you on, and we're looking forward to your articles and your insights, not only on Argentina, but all of Latin America, the commodity side. And we give you a big welcome to our family, WealthWise, and the Pro Investor Insights. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It's a pleasure.
All right. All right. Enjoy a couple weeks. And we'll see you again soon. Make us a promise now. We'll see you in the next newsletter coming up, I think for sure, right?
Promise made, promise kept.
Fantastic. Beautiful, George. My pleasure. It's Jordan Kimmel signing off one more time for WealthWise. We'll see you soon. We thanks a lot to George Socca and Wealthing. George, one thing before we jump off, maybe you want to give a website or someplace where they could find you.
Yes, they can go to wealthing.io, and also you can find me on LinkedIn, George Socca. So easy.
Fantastic. We'll see you soon, George. Thanks for your time again.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.